actually have one important thing, which is, hey, someone's
allow it.
starting up a Kickstarter, aren't they? Or does that go live today?
It goes live Monday morning.
There we go. So why don't you tell us about your project you got coming up?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Anthony Ruttgaizer, and I am the creator and writer of a new all-ages graphic novel called Heroes of Homeroom C. The premise is a pretty simple one. Twin 12-year-old superheroes lose their powers, and their parents send them back to public school. And of course, just because they're going to be powerless and in school doesn't mean they're not going to get involved in all kinds of action and excitement. It's a 74-page graphic novel, 74 pages of story anyways, written by me, drawn by Carlos Granda, with letters and colors by Fred C. Stressing. And the Kickstarter for our book goes live tomorrow, Monday, January 30th, in case you're watching this in the future. The URL is going to be heroesofhomeroomc.com. If you want to go to that and save yourself the trouble of searching through Kickstarter for it. And yeah, that's the very basics of it.
And that is up on Facebook too. I know you guys who are watching as we record this, it's backwards, but on the video stream going out, it is facing the correct direction, I do believe. So that's Heroes of Homeroom C. You can find that at facebook.com/Heroes of Homeroom C. There's information there about the Kickstarter launch party, I think I saw.
Well, yeah, I put a Facebook event up just so people would have I could send out invites, let people know that the Kickstarter is launching tomorrow. But like I say, heroesofhomeroomc.com in tomorrow morning will be redirected to the Kickstarter page, so you'll be able to go straight to it from there. Or of course you can take a look at Kickstarter in the comic book section and you'll find it. And we've got copies of the book, t-shirts, chances to appear in the book as a character. We have a reward for libraries where if you pledge for that reward, you will get a copy of the graphic novel, and 2 copies will be donated to local libraries. And for retailers, because we don't have anything worked out with Diamond yet, that's coming later in the year, hopefully. But for retailers, if you're interested, you can basically get 10 copies wholesale from us. And yeah, the Kickstarter is going to start tomorrow morning and run through till March the 2nd. But the more people that pledge tomorrow, Monday, January 30th, the better chance we have to completely game the Kickstarter algorithms and end up on the front page, and with any luck, Lord God, fingers crossed, be featured on their front page for a while.
That is
You can
always,
do it. We believe in you.
Yeah, that's always a thing that people have always talked about being real important, is getting to the front page. Just looking at things, I will definitely swoop on there Monday morning and be putting in a pledge, because it sounds like a really interesting premise. Sounds like a cool book, so I'm totally on board.
Thank you.
Yep, and Anthony let me see the preview page for the Kickstarter. It looks really good. And to help make sure we get hopefully some extra traffic over there on day one, I've decided we're going to give away something to one of our listeners if they go and pledge on day one, and then that pledge is still there when the whole thing is over. Funko Pop sent me an additional Spider-Man Collector Core box as my annual gift for being on the Star Wars one, which is funny because I get the Star Wars boxes and I get the Marvel boxes. So for my Marvel subscription, they gave me a Star Wars box I already had. And for my Star Wars subscription, they gave me a Marvel box I already had. So I love all the stuff that's in this one, because this one has the Spider-Man hat, the Spider-Man plushie, and an exclusive Spider-Man Funko Pop, plus the patch and the badge. So everything's in here. Oh, and the comic. So I will get the list of names, because you can look on the community page on Kickstarter to see who's backed a project. So after day one, I will go and check everybody that's backed it at more than the $5 level, and I will randomly pick one of our listeners. And when the Kickstarter's over, you will get this sent to you for free.
And just to try and make things a little easier for Anthony, if you are one of our viewers who did back it, tweet to Anthony that you did also, so it makes it a little easier for him to try and find it too.
That'll work
Yeah,
too.
do
Yeah.
that too. So that way he doesn't have to scroll through pages of people.
I'll
it's
find it.
very-
I spend a
very
lot
much-
of time on Kickstarter.
I've come to really love Kickstarter. It's I've people talk about what if a project fails. I think I've pledged to 30 projects. I've only had one that succeeded in its funding and then didn't come through, and that guy's a scumbag anyway. So there's always going to be the risk, and they have a section on each page about risks and challenges, but I think it's such a fantastic site to help creative projects exist without having to deal with middlemen who will get a piece for no reason. You can deal directly with a potential audience, a potential purchaser, and make things happen. And I encourage, if you're especially if you're creating a comic book, if you think you've got something good and you just can't seem to break through there, think about Kickstarter, and Lord God, hopefully you're doing it smart.
Yes, exactly.
But there's
There's that problem too.
There's plenty of help out there available that you can research on how to do it smart and how to do it right. And it's the same things that you should be researching if you're, just even if you're going to go and try and print a comic book. Don't just go do it willy-nilly. You can oh, sorry, Willie, I didn't mean to talk about you. Didn't mean to talk
that
about
happy
your
face that happened. It was a little creepy.
didn't mean to talk about your nilly like that. But
Creepy is my middle name.
Your parents were cruel, Willie. Cruel.
Yes, they
But I've encouraged some people, look to Kickstarter. It's a way to get that first project done. It's a way to get the 1,000th project you work on done, and connect directly with your audience. And I think there's a lot of stuff on there that maybe wouldn't have gotten produced that people are now enjoying if that platform didn't exist.
That's a fair statement. And we have mentioned on this show before that when you go to do Kickstarters, remember, it's not guaranteed that everything's going to work out. You are funding it, but you're acting more as like an angel investor with the potential to get some rewards for doing it. Now,
Yeah.
I've been very lucky. I think I've only had one project that really I backed and nothing came of it. So take the chance. In most cases, it's going to be all right, but don't be surprised. There will be the rare project where things don't happen, and that's the nature of the beast.
I've
You
had
know,
a couple.
I mean,
but,
with the stuff
I've had
I'm
158 successful projects, so there's always a couple.
Yeah, but I mean the stuff I'm working on, my typical process is, the thing is happening either way. This is just a way of mitigating some of the costs for me. And in the case of Homeroom C, there's already a fair chunk of money that I've shelled out for my artists, because I believe in the project, and I'm moving forward with the project. We've got 30 of the 74 pages are drawn. Carlos has drawn 30 of 74 pages, about 40% of the book. Excuse me.
That's so many pages.
So there's money that's gone to him, and there's money that's gone to Jay Fosgett did our cover, and there's money that's gone to Fred Stressing for coloring the thing. And part of the reason for that is, so that come time to do the Kickstarter, I have the ability to put a preview of what will be the final product on the page. Right now, when you go to the Kickstarter page Monday morning, there's an 8-page preview. It's the first 8 pages of what will be the final graphic novel.
Oh, that's great.
It's
That's
not
awesome.
it's not speculative what it's going to look like, what the tone of the story is going to be, anybody who goes to the Kickstarter page is going to see what the book is about firsthand.
And the premise does sound great. It's something I'd be interested in. So, like I said, I'll be checking that out, and hopefully others do too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. I had a family obligation, and while I was there, it just so happened that the Black Comics Arts Festival was happening on the Sunday and Monday. It was the Martin Luther King Day weekend, and there were two of those conventions, one in San Francisco, one in New York City, one I think it was Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. Yeah, I was watching it over there.
Yeah, and so I took the opportunity. I'm in town. I took the opportunity to go check out the festival, and it's a very nice little convention. And David Walker and Brian Michael Bendis were there, and I'm known amongst my friends as a horrible name dropper. So
it's not a terrible problem to have.
I know.
It's especially good for podcast reasons too.
Names are heavy and often covered in butter. So so I got to the show, and I got there just in time for the tail end of the Walker Bendis panel. And afterwards, just because how much I was enjoying the show, I went up to them at their table. They were signing autographs, and I introduced myself, and I thanked them. All I wanted to do was thank them for being at the show, because it was a fun little show, and it's obviously growing. And guys like that taking the time to appear at a show like that, they're not there to make money hand over fist. They're there to support that show. And got to talking with Bendis, and he asked me what I was working on, and I gave him the elevator pitch for Heroes of Homeroom C. And he's twirling my business card in his hand, and he said, "Wow, that's really good," and told me to email him after the show, which I did, and he's passed my stuff along to a producer of his. I'm waiting to hear back
awesome.
from, because something might come of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Congratulations, because that's really awesome.
Yeah, that does not upset me at all.
No,
So-
not at all.
Heck yeah.
We've had some comments in the chat room. Dressman says, "Awesome. I love the fact that heroes are people with the inclination to fight for what's right, with or without superpowers. I also love the fact that you chose I also love the fact that if you lose your powers, your parents basically decided your life sucks. Now let me rub some salt on the wound and send you to public school."
No, that's not salt in the wound. Fuck's sake.
Well, it really depends on your view of public schools.
I'm used to giving the elevator pitch. I give you a little more about the book. In the 8-page preview, what you're going to see is that the kids, Nicola and Albert Hathaway are the names of the kids, and their superhero names are Sunburst and Athena. And they lose their powers in battle with a villain called the Ruiner.
That's awesome.
It was funny. I loved his exit, because the 8-page preview is fantastic. The artwork on it's great, and his exit is hilarious.
Yeah, thank you. Nothing like a good pun. Very Batman 66 dialogue from the villain.
Indeed.
But the kids, basically, what you'll find out in the book, through their dialogue is as superheroes, they were working for a government agency called Sector X, and living in the Pentagon. And they get their powers from an accident from their scientist parents. And at a certain point, their parents just decide maybe this isn't the best place to raise a kid, and they return to small town New England, a town in Massachusetts called Tranquil, which will belie itself pretty quickly. So it's not a matter of hey, you lost your powers, you little fucks. It was an odd parenting mistake that led to them having powers, and maybe now it's a good parenting decision that leads to them maybe trying to have a life as normal kids.
You also have to realize Draftman and I are in Chicago, where public school isn't such a good thing.
Yeah, and the kids there need superpowers.
Yeah. So just throwing that out there. That's where Dressman and I are. So it's just that's why it's a joke to us.
Yeah.
Hooray.
So as we start wrapping things up on this, I did want to ask, Anthony said Bachman said you've done other Kickstarters before. What words of advice or encouragement would you have for someone who was wanting to start a Kickstarter for their own project?
Oh, fuck.
You've got a little bit of experience with it. None of us do,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a different insight that can be offered.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I've run. This is my 4th crowdfunding campaign overall. I did one on Indiegogo in 2014 because Kickstarter wasn't available to Canadians yet. And then
Okay, because I was gonna say I think this is the 3rd one of yours I backed, and I didn't remember there was an Indiegogo.
Yeah, but that was the first one, and then 2015, 2016 were both Kickstarters for the volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the first Hero. And now in between volume 3 and this book, I went back and did more research. I even backed a Kickstarter for Greg Pak, the writer of World War Hulk, for his book, Kickstarter Secrets, How to Kickstart a Comic Book. I mean, that wasn't the be all end all of it. I've looked at a lot of stuff. I've talked to a lot of people. I found out how to turn a Facebook friends list into an email list. You know, I've tried to do this better, because the goal is 3 times what I've ever asked for at a Kickstarter before. And the best thing you can do is start early. Give yourself time to build the campaign, because there's once you start a campaign or start a project on Kickstarter, it doesn't have to be done in 2 weeks and ready to launch. Like, I mean, I started the project page for Homeroom C 4 or 5 months ago, and have been slowly building it. And in the last week or so, have done a flurry of work on it to get it up to snuff. But yeah, take your time and don't be afraid to read up on things, and don't be afraid to ask people. I've always said this about getting advice as a comic book creator. If you are polite and sincere in asking people for their advice, most people are going to take a moment, especially in the comic book community. Most people are going to take a moment and help you. And as long as you're gracious about it, and willing to actually listen, then you're going to find people who will gladly help you do what you're trying to do right. So the other big advice is, and anybody will tell you this about a Kickstarter, is build your audience, build as much of an audience as you can early. Whether that's doing your project as a web comic and letting it build an audience before you go to print or before you go to Kickstarter with it, or like I was saying, building a huge email list. The more people you can get your project in front of their eyes, the better the chance you have. And also know going in that your first Kickstarter, you are going to be relying almost entirely on friends and family.
I've heard other people say similar as well.
Yeah, it's the MCI plan. It's friends and family calling. I woke up yesterday. I woke up yesterday to a phone call from my dad. Okay. Asking me if the 3rd volume of the first Hero had come from the printers yet, because his neighbor's son is a big comic book collector. So I have a package of stuff that's going to go to my dad to pass to his neighbor later in the week. And he said, he asked me again, when does the Kickstarter start for Homeroom C? And I told him Monday morning. So, I'm not too proud. I'm very grateful that my father, I've had, aunts and uncles and cousins who have contributed to my Kickstarters. And, I hope it's two reasons. I hope A, it's because they support my creative endeavors, and B, it's because they enjoy my creative endeavors. So, look to the people don't be afraid to politely proselytize your new religion. But yeah, take your time and build your project. And with any creative endeavor, vet your own work with people. Find people that you can go to and say, people who will give you an honest answer, and say, is this good? And I've been very lucky with my stuff, with the friends, longtime friends I've had, the original, I like to say the original editor for a lot of my stuff is Lee Motor, and Motor's been an artist in this business for 25 years. And, I know that if I send him something and he reads through it, that I'm not going to get any, yeah, this is good. I'm going to get, why is this here? Or you could do this. And, you not everybody's going to have a comic pro like that available to them, but you've got friends who read comics. You've got friends that you talk to, and that they're super critical about things. Show them your stuff and get an honest answer from them, because you want to put your best foot forward. You want to make your project as good as possible. You're not going to take everybody's advice and change your book a million times, but you should be able to hear constructive criticism and weather that storm, and make yourself and make what you're doing better.
Sure, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So there's Uncle Kingdom's wisdom for you this morning.
It's good wisdom. None of us could have been able to provide that. So thank you for sharing that with folks. Because I know we do have some people that listen and watch the show that are more creative than I and might be wanting to do a Kickstarter project or a backed project like that one day.
Yeah. And, I tell kids at conventions all the time, like I'm on the road all the time. But I tell kids at comic book conventions, create. Some people, there's always going to be people who bring you their portfolios, and hey, you want to take a look at what I'm doing? And I say, yes, I'm glad to look and help and offer whatever constructive feedback I can. And not every one of those people is going to be somebody who will someday be, drawing at Marvel. But every one of them is creating something and enjoying doing it. And whether your creative endeavors ever turn into a money-making opportunity, whether they ever turn into something commercial, it doesn't matter. Create for the fun of it. Create because you want to, because that's an expression of yourself. But yeah, if you ever have dreams of turning it into a commercial thing, then Kickstarter is one of those ways that you can do it, A, without compromising yourself, your vision, your grand artistic vision, and B, without having to scramble through a system that is only looking at your creative endeavor as whether or not it will make them money.
Would you prefer Kickstarter over Indiegogo then?
Yeah. Kickstarter is like Kleenex. It's like Jell-O. It's like Q-tips. It is that's the name of that product. You don't call a Q-tip a cotton swab. You don't call Jell-O a gelatin dessert, and you don't call Kleenex a facial tissue.
Right.
You know, Kickstarter is what is synonymous with crowdfunding. So, you know, I was very happy. No offense to the fine people at Indiegogo, they were very helpful, and for certain projects, you should maybe think about Indiegogo more than Kickstarter. Indiegogo has the added value of depending on your project, you don't necessarily have to raise your entire goal. You can flexible funding, they call it. I had to search in my head for that phrase. Flexible funding.
Yeah, because Kickstarter's all or nothing.
Kickstarter is all or nothing, and I like that as well. There's great merits in that, because some people, I mean, go through the Kickstarter search, explore stuff, and you're gonna see plenty of projects that, I mean, a friend of mine and I, we call it clown funding. They're not worth that space on the internet. It's you're delusional. You're not getting a dime, and then those projects shouldn't exist. Man, if only the Underworld films had to go through crowdfunding. Hey, it's a callback to earlier in the show. It's a callback. That's comedy.
Comedy gold.
But yeah, I love Kickstarter, and I mean, it makes you spend time budgeting. It makes you spend time planning the what do we do now that we have the money. You know, what are we going to do if we get this money? So again, sorry, Willie, you can't just go into it all willy-nilly. Which is willy-nilly is that's during the full moon. That's the monster that roams Willie's neighborhood, and they don't understand where it's coming from, or why it's eating children, or why Willie always has blood on his teeth. But
is it showing?
It's like Slender Man. It's like Slender Man. Willy-nilly.
Is it gone?
I've created a new legend for you. Yeah.
I thought it tasted iron.
It's for you. It helps. It's fine.
So yeah, Kickstarter. I'm not just for selfish reasons. I'm a big proponent of Kickstarter.
I am as well, and I did want to say thank you, Anthony, for coming to join us today to talk about Heroes of Homeroom C and your experiences with Kickstarter. I'm pretty sure they're going to be invaluable to anyone who's listening and going, well, how do I do this the right way, or what's some good tips? So thank you so much for that. And again, listening and watching this show, don't forget, on January 30th, as we record this, that's tomorrow, Heroes of Homeroom C Kickstarter launches. Just head on over to heroesofhomeroomc.com or search for it on Kickstarter. Let's do what we can, get it backed and trending so that we can get it on the front page and help this awesome book happen.
Thank you very much, guys, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for listening to this brand new episode of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. Don't forget, we'll be back next Sunday live at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central over at live.atgnpodcast.com, channel 3 of the Alpha Geek Radio app, and over at our network home at gonnageek.com/live. If you have any feedback for the show, please contact us atgnpodcast@gonnageek.com, on our hotline number at 304-806-ATGN, or even better, go to Twitter and send us a message at ATGN Podcast. The music you've heard in this show is produced by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com.